The Impotent King Who Left His Wife a Virgin for 13 Years, Section 1. May 3, 1453. Inside a cathedral in Segovia, Spain, 3 prostitutes stand before bishops and noblemen, swearing under oath that they successfully bedded Prince Henry of Castile. This isn't a scandal being exposed, this is the prince's own legal defense. Across the same courtroom, Princess Blanche of Navarre, after 13 years of marriage to one of Europe's most powerful heirs, is forced to undergo a humiliating physical examination by church matrons. The verdict: she remains a virgin. Not once in over 4,000 nights had her husband touched her, and the prince isn't denying it. He's weaponizing his failure, claiming witchcraft has cursed him only in his marriage bed, making him capable with any woman except his own wife. This trial will ignite a succession war that tears Castile apart and reshapes the future of Spain forever. To understand how a royal marriage descends into this nightmare, we must go back to September 16, 1440. The Cathedral of Valladolid glitters with gold thread and the combined nobility of 2 kingdoms. 15-year-old Prince Henry stands at the altar, gangly and awkward, already plagued by chronic headaches and what court physicians delicately call melancholic humors. Across from him stands 16-year-old Blanche, educated, poised, fluent in 4 languages, trained since childhood to be a queen. This marriage is a diplomatic masterpiece designed to end border conflicts between Castile and Navarre. Their children will unite 2 kingdoms, peace will reign. But when the wedding night arrives, everything falls apart. Royal consummations in medieval Europe were practically state events. Nobles, bishops, physicians, and ladies of the court gathered outside the bedchamber, some even remaining inside as witnesses to ensure the marriage became legally binding through physical union. That night, according to one chronicler, the crowd waiting outside Henry and Blanche's chamber included nobles, favorites, bishops, doctors, maids, and even jesters. They waited for the traditional display of bloodied sheets that would confirm the union was complete. By morning, the whispers had started. The prince had been unable to perform. Some said he froze with terror at the crowd of witnesses. Others noticed how he barely looked at his bride during the ceremony. Within a year, Blanche's mother, Queen Blanche, the First of Navarre, was dead, possibly poisoned, though nothing was proven. Young Blanche was now alone in Castile, married to a prince who wouldn't touch her. For 12 years, Henry and Blanche lived out one of history's strangest royal marriages. They shared a palace, but not a bed. They appeared together at state functions, but exchanged barely a word. Blanche attended mass every morning at dawn, praying for a miracle that never came. Henry spent his nights everywhere except with his wife. Court chronicler Alonso de Palencia would later write that Henry showed the most extreme abhorrence toward Blanche. But here's what makes this story truly disturbing. Henry wasn't abstaining from women entirely. His own confessor repeatedly had to admonish him to stop visiting any bed other than his marital one. Servants whispered about late-night visits to certain chambers. Guards were paid to look the way when carriages arrived at side entrances. The future king was actively sleeping with other women while his wife remained untouched and humiliated. The treatments Henry tried ranged from desperate to horrifying. Italian physicians prescribed potions made from ground rhinoceros horns smuggled from Africa at tremendous cost. Court records show purchases of massive quantities of cinnamon, ginger and dragon's blood, actually tree resin marketed as a miracle cure. Henry consumed so much that courtiers reported he reeked of spices. Then came caustic ointments applied to his genitals that left him with chemical burns so severe he could unride a horse for weeks. One chronicle describes Henry lying naked on top of Blanche while servants flogged his buttocks until they bled, hoping pain might provoke arousal. Imagine being Princess Blanche during these sessions, a teenage girl raised in the cultured court of Navarre, now subjected to these humiliating medical experiments while maintaining the facade of royal dignity in public. If you're captivated by these dark corners of history, stories of power, betrayal, and the human cost of royal politics, please subscribe. These forgotten tales deserve to be remembered, and your support helps bring them to light. But Blanche wasn't passive in her suffering. In March 1447, she did something extraordinary. A letter discovered in the Vatican's secret archives only in 1898 reveals that Blanche wrote directly to Pope Nicholas V, not asking for an annulment but begging for intervention. "Most Holy Father," she wrote, "I fear not for my soul but for my husband's. There are those in this court who whisper of dark practices, of ceremonies conducted at midnight, of pacts made with forces that should not be named." She was accusing someone of literally cursing her marriage. The Pope never responded, or if he did, the letter was destroyed. But 3 months later, the court magician was quietly dismissed and fled to Morocco. His rooms were searched and immediately sealed. Whatever was found inside was burned in the courtyard while priests chanted exorcism prayers. By 1451, the political ground had shifted entirely. Blanche's father, John II, was now at war with his own son, and Castile had chosen sides against him. Blanche went from being a diplomatic bridge to being the daughter of an enemy. In January 1453, Henry formally petitioned for annulment. The woman who had been his wife for 13 years was now a political liability that needed to be removed. But medieval canon law required proof, and that proof would require the most sensational trial of the century. The ecclesiastical court convenes on May 3, 1453, in the Cathedral of Segovia. The gallery is packed with nobility, all pretending they're there for religious purposes, all actually there for the scandal of a lifetime. Blanche enters first, 29 years old, still beautiful despite years of humiliation, wearing a simple black dress that emphasizes her dignity. The first question cuts like a blade. Do you swear before God and these witnesses that you remain virgin and untouched? I so swear, she replies. But swearing isn't enough. A panel of matrons, older noblewomen considered beyond reproach, takes Blanche to a side chamber for a physical examination. One matron would later write in her private journal that the princess bore this trial with such grace that we who examined her wept. The verdict is confirmed. After 13 years of marriage, Princess Blanche of Navarre shows all the physical signs of virginity. Then comes Henry's defense, and it's unlike anything medieval Europe has seen before. Instead of defending himself against charges of impotence, he proves selective impotence. Enter the prostitutes of Segovia, 3 established courtesans who serviced nobility, women who understood discretion and politics. Each testifies separately. Their stories align too perfectly. Some observers note, they describe encounters with the prince in graphic detail, times, places, specific acts proving his capability. One mentions a birthmark on his thigh that only an intimate partner would know. Another brings actual documentation, receipts of payments from the royal treasury for services to the household. The crown was officially paying for the prince's extramarital activities. But the most damning testimony comes from Beatrice, called La Portuguesa, who swears the prince explicitly told her during one of their encounters that he felt free and capable with anyone except his wife, that with Blanche it was as if iron chains bound his desires. The prosecution presents this as evidence of supernatural interference. Only sorcery could explain such selective dysfunction. Then comes the surprise witness. The Marquis of Santillana, one of the most respected nobles in Castile, enters carrying a sealed document. It contains testimony from Fernando Perez de Guzman, Henry's own physician for the past 10 years, now on his deathbed. The doctor claims to have found physical evidence of cursing, unexplained scars on Henry's lower abdomen that formed patterns, unusual discoloration of the skin that appeared and disappeared with the moon's phases. He describes being approached in 1445 by a mysterious figure offering to cure the prince for a price. A woman of Eastern appearance who gave him a vial of liquid to slip into Henry's wine. The doctor refused and reported the incident, but nothing was done. Someone else, he theorizes, might have accepted a similar offer. The verdict takes exactly 1 hour. By the authority vested in me by Holy Mother Church, Bishop Luis Vasquez de Acuña proclaims, I declare this marriage null and void, having never been consummated due to perpetual impediment caused by maleficium, evil sorcery. Furthermore, we declare that Prince Henry, having proven his natural capability through credible testimony, is free to remarry. The courtroom erupts. Blanche says nothing. She curtsies to the bishop and walks out of the cathedral looking, one witness writes, like a woman walking to her execution. Within hours, Blanche's servants are packing her belongings. The jewels that were wedding gifts are confiscated. She's allowed to keep only what she brought from Navarre 13 years ago. But when she arrives at the Navarre border in June 1453, she isn't welcomed home. She's arrested. Her father, John II, accuses his own daughter of treason. With her marriage annulled, she's technically next in line for Navarre's throne after her brother. And her father has other plans for that throne, plans involving his new wife and son. Blanche is imprisoned in Orthez Castle, the same castle where she spent her childhood. The windows of her cell overlook the gardens where she played as a little girl. Meanwhile, Henry wastes no time. By July, ambassadors are already in Lisbon negotiating his next marriage to Joan of Portugal. The Portuguese are skeptical. They demand special contract terms. If the marriage fails to produce children, Joan keeps everything. If Henry proves impotent again, she can return to Portugal with no shame. They know exactly what they're getting into. The marriage takes place in May 1455, and whatever happens on the wedding night, both parties declare it consummated. For 7 years, there are no children. Then in February 1462, Queen Joan gives birth to a daughter. The court celebrates, but rumors start almost immediately. Queen Joan has grown close to a young courtier named Beltran de la Cueva, devastatingly handsome and constantly at the queen's side. Henry himself promoted Beltran, giving him unprecedented access to the royal apartments. Courtiers do the math. Beltran was appointed to the queen's household exactly 9 months before the birth. They start calling the princess La Beltranea, Beltran's little girl. Henry's reaction is telling. Instead of punishing those spreading rumors, he rewards Beltran with more titles and land. Some historians suggest Henry knew exactly what was happening, that he arranged for Beltran to do what he couldn't. But by 1464, a confederation of nobles demands proof of the princess's legitimacy. At the Convention of Burgos, Henry publicly questions his own daughter's paternity and agrees to name his half-brother Alfonso as heir instead. It isn't enough for the rebels. On June 5, 1465, outside the walls of Avila, they stage one of history's most theatrical protests. They build a wooden platform and place a life-sized effigy of Henry IV on it, dressed in royal robes, crown on head, scepter in hand. Before thousands of witnesses, they systematically strip the effigy of each symbol of kingship while reading charges of impotence, heresy, and tyranny. Then they throw the effigy to the ground and trample it. They call it the farce of Avila, and it plunges Castile into civil war. Henry IV would die in 1474, his legitimacy never restored, his daughter's claim forever tainted. His half-sister Isabella would seize the throne, marry Ferdinand of Aragon, and together they would complete the Reconquista, expel the Jews, and fund a Genoese sailor named Christopher Columbus. All because a 15-year-old prince could unconsummate his marriage on a September night in 1440. And Blanche of Navarre, she died in prison in 1464, most likely poisoned by her own father's order, having spent the last 11 years of her life locked in the castle where she was born. Her crime was being the unwanted witness to a prince's failure, a diplomatic inconvenience in a world where women were chess pieces and royal bloodlines were worth more than human dignity. The real horror of this story isn't the witchcraft or the spectacle of the trial. It's how easily a young woman's entire life could be destroyed by forces beyond her control. How 13 years of humiliation could be legally justified. How a father could imprison his own daughter rather than defend her honor. Blanche's voice, preserved only in that single letter to the Pope begging for help that never came, reminds us that behind every grand historical narrative are real people who suffered, hoped, and were ultimately crushed by the machinery of power. What do you think really happened in that marriage? Was Henry truly cursed, or was this medieval Europe's most elaborate cover-up? Leave your thoughts in the comments below.